Hello, folks. This is Jeff Hines. Thanks for joining me tonight for the Summer Co-op Info Session live stream. I'll just review the format for tonight. I do have a prepared video that I'm going to share with you. It's very accurate and encapsulates all the details of the program. As well, I'll be working off to the side here for those of you who have the question Google form. I'll be correlating any of the questions that you asked throughout the presentation. And once we finish our video, I'll then come back online here, be live, and I'll proceed to answer all of your questions. But at this point, what I'll do is I'll go to our video and I'll begin to play this.
Welcome, everybody. My name is Jeff Hines. I'm the Summer Co-op Organizer for the Halton District School Board, and I'll be reviewing some of the requirements and key elements of the Summer Co-op program. We begin by acknowledging the land and our responsibility to care for and respect all that provides us with life. This land upon which HDSB is situated is on the ancestral treaty and title lands of the Anishinaabe, Ojibwe, Mississauga Nation, known as the Mississaugas of the Credit. Mississauga territory in the past and present continues to host both Indigenous and non-Indigenous peoples. The HDSB is committed to continuous knowledge building with respect to actions that address and resolve the ongoing impacts of colonialism. We do this by learning and understanding the true history, treaty obligations, duties and responsibilities, and Indigenous rights while actively maintaining mutual beneficial relationships and collectively respecting and caring for the land. A co-op is an experiential form of education that shares a lot with Indigenous ways of knowing. In co-op, students are able to learn outside of a traditional classroom from business owners, mentors, and industry experts. Students are able to explore a career of their interest and gain valuable insight and experience that directly connects to their future career goals. For parents and guardians, I would like to ask that you think for a moment about someone in your life that has taught or mentored you and contributed to your development or success. For many of us, this will have taken place outside of a traditional classroom. A co-op experience looks to create such an alternative educational experience for our students. The agenda for this evening is as follows. We'll review program eligibility, why enroll in a co-op program, various co-op options, summer school co-op commitments, summer co-op site locations, the rules of the summer co-op program, registration steps, supports available to our students, as well as a Q&A period. The Summer Co-op program at the Halton District School Board is available only to students involved with SHSM, OYAP, and Student Success programs. Specialist High Skills Major, or SHSM, is a specialized ministry-approved program that allows students to focus their learning on a specific industry sector while meeting the requirements of the Ontario Secondary School Diploma. Ontario Youth Apprenticeship Program, or OYAP, offers students a chance to attend school and train as a registered apprentice at the same time. Students are able to complete their credits towards an Ontario Secondary School Diploma and gain apprenticeship training leading to a certificate of qualification in a skilled trade at the same time. Student success candidates have fallen behind on their credits for a variety of reasons and are in need of credit support. Student success candidates must be recommended to the program by their student success teacher. There are a wealth of benefits for SHSM, OYAP, and student success candidates to enroll into a co-op program. For SHSM students, a 2-credit co-op is a requirement of an SHSM program. They must complete a 2-credit co-op related to a major credit of their SHSM program in order to graduate with a red seal on their Ontario Secondary School Diploma. For OYAP students, co-op credits earn credits towards their Ontario Secondary School Diploma, and any hours count towards their apprenticeable trade. For student success candidates, they can earn credits towards graduation and the completion of their Ontario Secondary School Diploma. The Halton District School Board has a number of options available for students to complete their co-op credits. Students can complete their co-op credits through semester, night school, and summer school opportunities. For semester co-op, students should be contacting their local school co-op teacher or guidance counselor. For night school and summer school, Enrollment is done through the Gary Allen Learning Center. Details can be found on the Gary Allen website. It is extremely important for students and their families to plan their co-op credits. For example, if a student is unable to complete a co-op credit through night school or summer school and is worried about fitting co-op into a grade 12 timetable, it may be recommended to take an academic credit at summer school in order to free up their timetable and be able to take a semester co-op in their grade 12 year. For students who are interested in enrolling in the summer co-op program, the following time commitments must be met. The program runs 5 weeks, starting July 2nd, ending August 2nd, with 3 mandatory in-person in-class days. 220 hours of co-op placement is required in order to earn 2 co-op credits. No vacation time can be booked through the duration of this course. To enroll, you must be either an SHSM, OYAP, or qualify as a student success candidate. You must be motivated and interested in your sector and co-op placement. Student success candidates must have secured their summer employment. This program, again, is not eligible for students who simply want to earn extra credits. Summer school site locations for the in-person days are as follows. In Burlington, at Dr. Frank J. Hayden Secondary School, in Oakville, at Garth Webb Secondary School, and in the north, Craig Kilberger Secondary School. Please note as well that students are limited to only 2 credits during summer school. If you enroll in the summer co-op program, there is no room available for any additional summer school credits. Let's review some of the basic criteria for selecting a co-op placement. So for SHSM and OYAP students, it must be sector specific and related to your SHSM or OYAP. Your co-op placement needs to be housed in a safe and appropriate learning environment. Students are free to select outside of our home area, so outside of Halton, but must be within 50 kilometers of a summer school site location and seek the permission of myself, the summer co-op coordinator. And it is worth noting that placements within Halton are certainly preferred. We also need to make sure that our co-op placements are outside of a home environment and that family members are not your direct co-op supervisor. For anybody entertaining distance placements, so greater than the 50-kilometer radius outside of Halton, you need to research and conduct those co-op placements with a school board in that appropriate area. You also should be considering your transportation needs. There are going to be a number of community partner placements, such as at McMaster University. Students that apply to those co-op locations need to consider their transportation to and from that co-op placement. Program registration steps are as follows. I ask all students to complete the student communication form. It's a brief survey where I collect your student email, your homeschool location. I use that information to invite you to a Google Classroom where I house a lot of resources, videos, workshops. I also share some potential leads for co-op placements. I also send reminders for registrations, deadlines, and due dates. Formal registration for the program begins on April 17th through My Blueprint. Students must secure a co-op placement by June the 14th and communicate that they have secured that placement with me so that I may complete their registration into the program. Please note there's a limit of 250 students for the summer school program. I need you to check your school email regularly and communicate with me any concerns, questions, or challenges that may arise ASAP. For those of you viewing with a smartphone, here is the QR code for the student communication form. You do need to be a student with a Halton District School Board email address to complete the form. It is an editable form, so there are sections on there that you will not be able to complete at this time, but when you do submit the form, you will receive an email. It's through that email that you can access the form again and either update or change whatever information you would like. So I do treat this as a live document, and I do check the contents of the form regularly. There are a number of student supports that will be made available. Workshops will begin mid-April. Initially, these workshops will include resume writing, cover letter, interview skills. We do mock interviews. I also provide a lot of information that can be shared with employers to help explain the co-op process. That's especially helpful for employers that have never hosted a co-op student in the past. I also share any co-op placement leads in our Google Classroom as well, so it's important to stay up to date with our Google Classroom. I make school visits. I'm available through email, and if families and their students wish, I can also make virtual meets. For those of you that are watching a recorded version of this presentation, by all means, please reach out to me if you have any additional questions. My name is Jeff Hines, and my email address is hinesje@hdsb.ca. I look forward and invite any questions or comments you may have. We'll now move into our question and answer period. So I'll be navigating the Google form that was a part of this presentation, and I'll facilitate the answering of any questions that you may have.
Okay, thanks, folks. Appreciate your patience throughout that. And let me just get back to our Google Meet here. I would like to share a second document here. Okay, so while we were watching the presentation, I was correlating some of the questions. I tried to group these in chunks to related questions that some of you had, but I'll navigate through these at this point, right? When do we send out applications for co-op placements, and will you provide any materials, info sheets, etc. for students and employers? So there's really not a firm time that you can start sending out applications. Obviously, the sooner that you land and secure your co-op placement, the better. As you saw in the presentation, we do have a firm deadline. So the last day for me to approve a student into the summer co-op program is on June the 14th. So we have to have a placement secured before then, prior to then. As far as any materials or supports, we do hold workshops. We help with resume writing, cover letters. We do mock interviews as well. And then on top of that, any placements that I receive through either employers or community partners, I do post up into our Google Classroom. So that process has begun already, and some students have already started to make arrangements to apply for some of the placements. Again, it's kind of a repeat question here. So again, apply as soon as possible. How does the school or the board support the student successfully getting a co-op? So again, I do make myself available. So for any students that are having challenges or difficulties, I'll often book time in the evening where we can hold like a family Google Meet with myself, your son, daughter. And what we basically do is start to strategically plan casting a wide net. You know, so for example, if we looked at a healthcare SHSM student that, you know, wanted to get into neurology, you know, post-secondary here, we may not find a position with a neurologist. But what we could do is start to look for sports rehab, physio, veterinarian places, optometrists. You know, once we start to expand our search and consider many more health-related fields, it does give us opportunity to connect with more employers, and that does tend to be the way that most students end up securing. Will the school teacher have resources to help students? Yes, again, so I post them. When are students expected to have found the summer co-op? So again, the absolute deadline for me to approve someone is on June the 14th. Do we need to find a job placement before we start co-op? Yes, that's imperative. So the registration process, you register on My Blueprint, and that begins April 17th. That's when that opens up. It's also important to note here, that's why I encourage you to join our Google Classroom. That's my main mechanism for sending out reminders to students through email and through links through the classroom. I then get you to register through my blueprint. That's your official registration with the Halton District School Board. And then I work with communicating with you. Once you secure your co-op, you let me know. There's a bit of paperwork we'll fill out, and then I'll finalize your application and give you full approval into the summer co-op program. Let's see, what happens if we can't get a placement before the placement period starts? Well, there's another options, right? We do have night school co-op that will run both first and second semester of next school year. As well, for some students, it might be wise to take a look at the other course opportunities that are being presented through summer school. Grade 12 year, if it's our typical SHSM student is a grade 11 student in the summer co-op. But of course, next year they'd be grade 12. But in a grade 12 year, if it tends to look difficult to fit a co-op into your grade 12 schedule, that's where you might want to start doing some credit planning and look to take a credit through the summertime, right? An academic credit frees up your timetable, and that way you can fit in your co-op through a regular semester. Do students get help finding a job? Is the job only for credits or for pay as well? And then you'll notice we get quite a few questions about pay. So the co-op itself can be a paid position. However, I'd caution you, my experience last year, I would say easily 95% of the placements, and that's just an estimate, 95 were unpaid placements, okay? The students that were able to engage in paid placements either had secured full-time work even before moving into the summer co-op period, or they really worked hard at trying to navigate that. I would caution you too, if you're trying to balance this out, you're trying to look at the co-op experience at a very reputable, good placement versus looking for paid employment. And sometimes it's hard to find the balance where those two conditions are met. Okay, so with this, you might want to look to your program, look to your future academic goals, future career ambitions, and try to base your placement on that, right? 5 weeks will go fairly quickly. And I think you'll also find that if you're looking for co-op placements that are unpaid, there tends to be a lot more opportunity out there than if you're looking for a paid position, okay? How do students find eligible opportunities? Again, I think the workshops are going to be the best way for that to get started. And again, we do post a lot of community partnerships. There are, of course, the employers that we've used in previous years. But with that, I tend to work with groups in evenings and start to target kind of areas, industries, and employers that are good locations to start to apply for our co-op positions. Again, a lot with the paid, so certainly you can have a paid, but that's up to you to make arrangement for. How many hours per day must the student meet to complete the program? Okay, so any high school credit is 110 hours worth of instructional time. So 2 co-op credits technically would be 220 hours, okay? It's tough to imagine 220 hours within the 5 weeks. So we encourage you to find a full-time experience, and we do credit you for your time in class, as well as encourage you to keep a journal where you record time doing homework. Even if you're, having a dialogue with mom and dad about your experience at work for the day, I would recommend that you document all that in your journal. Most of us are probably going to end up in positions that are Monday to Friday type of scenario, where we work 8 to 4 or 9 to 5, and that's exactly, the perfect kind of model that we're looking for. You are free to work evenings or weekends. That is an option. But again, I think the goal we're really trying to stick with here is a full-time experience. And if you need further explanation for that, or you feel you have something specific, I would recommend that you reach out and speak to me directly. Presentation, so 220 hours. Can I do the program part-time? Part-time is problematic, right? We don't have the ability to give part credits for this, and your co-op requirement for the SHSM is a 2-credit co-op. So part-time, unfortunately, is not an option for our summer program. Is there flexibility for dates if the student is out of the country? Unfortunately, no. And specifically the August 2nd, that first day of in-class time, that one is imperative that we get your child at the school, right? We have to make sure that we have all paperwork and documentation completed. Part of this program as well, it's worth noting, there is WSIB coverage for your son or daughter while they are on their co-op placement. If the placement is a paid placement, the employer will be paying the WSIB, and that's just under Ontario labor law. If the student is in an unpaid co-op, we work with the Ministry of Education to cover the WSIB costs during their time at that co-op placement. So we need that in place before we can have students set foot on their co-op employer. And we have to make sure as well that all the other safety documentation is all in order before we begin this process. Okay, so we've got a question here. They've secured a placement in another city, in Hamilton. And I believe right after this is another one where we're looking at PO and Cambridge Waterloo. So ideally, we would like you to stay within 50 kilometers of our high school locations for summer school. And those locations, again, are Garth Webb in Oakville, Dr. Frank J. Hayden in Burlington, and Craig Hilberger in Milton. So you've pretty much got a 50-kilometer radius outside of there. If you have a specific location or you're not sure how to calculate the kilometer radius, please, again, reach out to me and we'll have a look at it together to make sure that it's going to be a viable placement. If my child's not successful in securing their own summer co-op placement, what do we do? Again, I would strongly urge you to attend the workshops. I really do try my best to work with families and students to make sure that we're creatively expanding our search to include as many employers as possible within their discipline and their SHSM sector, right? That's the key to it, right? You just have to keep being flexible and being aware of what industries and what employers are in your local area. Well, here's a unique one. My daughter is doing 2 SHSMs, a manufacturing and eco studies. We know she can only have one. Can we find a co-op that overlap with the 2 subject areas since she can't decide which SHSM she wishes to receive? The best way to handle this, and for any students that are on the call right now on the live stream, I did place into our Google Classroom your records of all the trackers, and within that, it lists all of the major credits for all of your SHSM programs. If you have, in this case, 2 SHSMs, like a manufacturing and an eco studies, if major credits are shared between the 2, that would sort of make things easy. But I think what would be best is by the time you're into your summer program and before we establish and commit to a tieback code, which is what we need in co-op behind the scenes. It's a teacher-related item, but I would hope that you could work through and strongly establish which direction or which sector you're going to be heading into. If not, we can try the flexibility if there is a similar tieback code, but again, that has to be in line with your placement location, and that's something that we're probably going to have to look at on a case-by-case basis. Are there mandatory in-person in-class days on specific dates? Yes, there are. The only date that I have that's confirmed at this point, so there will be 3 in total, and the only date that is confirmed is July the 2nd. Okay, so that one is confirmed. The other 2, as soon as I'm aware of them, I will post them onto our Google Classroom and make sure I send emails out telling you folks. What will our in-person class days look like? Is very similar to any other summer school day. So you are going to show up at the start time of the school, depending on which school that you're tied to. There will be a co-op teacher there. They will have lessons, assignments. It is a lot of, paperwork and checking to make sure that we have all items submitted that we are required to do. Big one would be the workplace education agreement or WIA document. We need to make sure that gets done and is filled out. And some of that is just, as I said and mentioned earlier, we have to make sure that we have those things in for your own safety and liability as well. Can we select days for in-person and opt out of your scheduled days? Unfortunately not. Those days are scheduled, and you're going to have to commit and follow through with those. Is transportation supported to co-op? The only time that transportation is supported to co-op is if you're getting to and from two of the schools and if you live in certain areas. So, for example, if your summer school location was Craig Kilburger, for the in-class, in-person days, if you lived in Acton and Georgetown, there is a bus that leaves from Acton, picks up in Georgetown, and delivers to Craig Kilburger, and at the end of the day, return trip. We also have, for students in Aldershot and Burlington Central, a bus that will run across that end of Burlington and take you to Dr. Frank J. Hayden. So you can use that transit for the 3 days that we will have in school in-person days. Other than that, if you're speaking to transportation to get to and from your work location, no, there is no transportation provided. And that's a key point to bring up and make aware that when you are selecting some of your co-op placements, that you are considering how your transportation needs are going to be met. Is it bicycle? Is it walking? Do you have mom or dad that can drop you off? And again, that's one area, so long as you're within the 50-kilometer boundary. But if you can, tag along with mom or dad on their way to work and get dropped, that kind of expands some of the areas that you can look for different co-op locations. What are the programs available? So I think what this question is asking is perhaps if it's which types of students or groups of students. So you really have to be enrolled in either a SHSM, an OYAP, or qualify as a student success candidate. As far as the programs that we have, if you're talking about partnering with employers, it's a wealth of opportunity, and certainly there's been a good number of different disciplines from the arts to manufacturing and everything in between. So it really depends on where we can secure a co-op placement for that. But I guess to the point, if you are a parent or a student looking for maybe just an extra credit through co-op, the summer program is not where we allow that to take place. Can a student do a co-op during the normal school year and mix it with a part-time co-op in the summer so they don't spend all their vacation time doing a co-op? No, unfortunately, no. Just like any other course, there are semesters, there's start and stop timelines. We have reporting periods that teachers have to adhere to. You will be assigned a teacher that is responsible for, looking out for you and making sure that your progress is being mapped throughout the co-op program. So no, there's no ability to kind of flexibly float time between co-ops and move in and out of our calendar dates. So you'll have to commit to those dates. If you're not able to do it, again, there are night school options and there are regular semester co-op as well. How does the required technical and safety training work for co-op positions? Who provides this? So our in-person day, we cover extensively young workers' rights. We touch on WMIS. We also, with our employer partners, there is, and depending on our employers as well, if we've worked with the employer previously, we do have a safety record with them. So we've gone through and inspected the work site. If they are a new employer, that will be done by the co-op teacher, where they'll go in, inspect the site, make sure that we have things like, clear exits, fire extinguishers, the place looks safe and appropriate for your son and daughter to be at. And we also, as part of the co-op program, there is to be an orientation for your son or daughter when they do show up at the co-op placement. So again, they're getting acquainted with, where safety equipment is in that co-op environment or the work site. And it is a part of the program. So the co-op has been long established in our board, and there are a great number of safety commitments that we make to make sure that students are safe at all times. Can a student attend summer school and participate in co-op? So the answer to that one, unfortunately, is no. So at the Halton District School Board, you are limited to 2 credits during the summer co-op. So if you decide to take the summer co-op, those will be your 2 credits. If you're deciding to take, a number of credits, academic credits, you'll be limited to 2. Okay. Would I be working 9 to 5 every day? What should I start looking for? Or when should I start looking for places? So yeah, ideally like an 8 to 4, 9 to 5, a full-time experience is what we're looking for. I think when should you start to look for places? How to establish a game plan? As we said, there's not really a magic start time, but there certainly is a deadline. June the 14th is the last day I can approve you. So I think the best time is, perhaps yesterday, but if you have a plan moving forward, certainly that's probably the best way to be organized and find a co-op placement that suits your needs. What existing employer partnership do you have connections to for students looking for co-op opportunity? Again, there's a good number of community partners that will be reaching out to us. McMaster's, a good example. They usually put on like an engineering challenge. There's also some healthcare related placements as well. The Google Classroom, some of our more independent or smaller employers look forward to this opportunity every year, and they've certainly reached out to me, and I've posted a lot of those already in the Google Classroom. I do have records from last year as well, so it's a number of supports do exist, right? I think the important piece, though, for a student to seek out their own co-op position is an important part of this program, right? It is gearing them for success in the future. At some point, they will be applying for careers. They'll be having to navigate the same process in their own lives. And I would just say from my own experience, a student that is committed to seeking out an employer is much more committed to seeing that co-op thrive and succeed in their placement as well. Simply being, not suggesting this what the nature of the question was, but if we're just handing out co-op placements, there may not be that same connection that student feels for that co-op placement. And that's not only not good for our students, but not good for our community partners as well. So we do suggest that this is going to be a piece that you will have to work at securing your own co-op position. What are the best ways to access more information about the co-op as a student? The survey that I put up there on the QR code, that's a big start. You can email me directly. I'll invite you into the Google Classroom. I have a wealth of reference and information there. Certainly an email as well. I can help you direct to specific instances of information that you need, but that's probably the best way to start this going forward. At your schools, if you do have a SHSM lead, that might be one other way to learn a bit more about this process, as most of your leads have gone through this a number of years with a number of students. What is recommended to get credits to pass the program? Well, you got to come close to the 220 hours. There is in-school components as well. You must attend those. There are projects, so you will have to complete those things as well. And certainly having a positive attitude and being engaged with the placement that you're at. It's an interesting opportunity that might be something brand new to many of you, being able to work at a co-op location, and I'm using air quotes here, but the real world. And certainly, I think most students come out of this with experiencing a very rewarding time at their co-op placement. What is the most unknown worry that most students don't focus on and ignore? Well, that's still not known. I'm just kidding. Probably, yeah, I would say just the planning aspect of what their industry and what the possibilities are. I can think with some of our coding students in previous years, or even some of our IT and graphics design. One young lady partnered with a small jewelry store in Milton last year. The jewelry store had virtually no social media. And that student came in, developed a whole platform, a whole plan. She was ingenious in her approach, even suggested, why don't we test how successful our social media campaign is? Would you be willing to put a coupon into your social media ads? And the business owner agreed. And within, I think, the first few hours, people were coming in wanting to know if the 10% off coupon could be applied towards, purchase of different items. So that's a perfect example of somebody who's just, focusing on what their talents are and trying to match it to potential employer needs, right? I don't think that position would have, been something that I could have foreseen, but that student was able to go out and kind of materialize that themselves. If I work at a summer camp in a drawing studio for a month, does that qualify for the SHSM Art Co-op program? Well, certainly it sounds like. I do want to make sure that a month is 5 weeks, right? So 220 hours is important. But if you are in an art co-op program and we have a course as one of your majors, that's a good tie back to what you were experiencing at the work location, certainly that's going to work. Okay, we're coming to the end of my sheet here, and I see that there's been a number of questions that have been added to the form, so I'll also navigate back over the second computer here. Will this information be recorded or sent in an email? Yes, I've already posted the video to the Google Classroom. The YouTube channel will be, or the YouTube video will be up for a number of weeks. As well, if you email me, I can forward you that link as well. Will resources be posted for finding a placement? If there are already, where can I find them? The Google Classroom is really what we use to drive that process. Okay, I'm navigating over to my second computer here. As per the presentation, we start July 2nd and August 2nd. How are we supposed to achieve 220 hours? Again, we're looking for a full-time commitment, a full-time experience. How do I get registered? On April 17th, my blueprint opens. Again, if you fill out my student survey, I'll be sure to send out reminders to you. How much will students be directly aided in finding co-op? I think, again, the workshops are the best place. The Google Classroom is going to be a feed where I stream that out to you. How often in a week are we required to go? Well, for those 5 weeks, I would think that Monday to Friday, 8 hours a day is pretty much what you're looking to achieve. Okay. What are some ways I can find co-op placements in my area? I've tried resources provided and searched online, but many do not match the field of study. Okay, that sort of thing. Again, I think if we have the workshop together, we can start to expand our search and start to look at different employers in the area. If you start to use things like the Chamber of Commerce in your area, they often have lists of businesses that you're likely not even aware are in existence in your neighborhood. But that's another great way to kind of get more contacts. And certainly, your social credit with your parents, neighbors, family members as well. Just any of your friends giving tips on different businesses, that's the way to go. But I think the key is creativity and certainly a planning to look for as many different co-op leads as possible. List of prospective employment opportunities. Yes, they'll be on the Moodle. Difficult times. So I think a lot of these are specific students now looking for support, and I get that. I'm not trying to discount your questions, but you're going to hear the same answer repeated, right? So again, if you're really concerned, reach out to me. I have no problem having a Google Meet with mom and dad there as well. And I think just having a good approach to how our search is conducted. We're still pretty early in this process, so we want to make sure that we kind of have a full view of what we're looking for and where we're willing to accept a co-op placement. Again, the 220 hours full-time experience. How long do I have to go to interviews before I give up? Again, I think if you're prepared and you're proposing a good resume and cover letter, I have a lot of support materials as well that explain the co-op process. So anything from letters that will lead you to educating the employer to full handbooks that explain the entire process. So that's going to be helpful. Can I do a co-op in 2 places? Again, that gets to be problematic. You got scheduling issues. This is only 5 weeks. In a regular semester, do some students do it over 2 places? Yes. I would say, though, they have an entire semester to sort that out. We're looking at doing this over 5 weeks with 3 in-class days. So that does become problematic. But again, for individual questions like that, reach out to me and we'll take a look at things. What co-op options might suit a student willing to study engineering? Oh, there's a ton. Design, manufacture, repair-based businesses, machining, automation, technology. There are good coding locations as well. You've got a lot of STEM schools that you can kind of work with, or even STEM camps. But again, you'll start to see in the Google Classroom, I filter and sort these job postings by your subject groupings, by your different sectors in SHSM. So that's helpful for you folks. How and when do I fill a OYAP form? So I do have a video for that. We're very early in this process, but you can get on the Google Classroom and find that. We'll also have a workshop later on, kind of end of April, mid-May, that will cover that. It's a straightforward process, though. If you're doing summer co-op, can you also do a course upgrade? No, you're limited to just 2 credits. Maybe repeat question. Find the scope. Yeah, I'll help you with posting leads. Will there be busing in Acton if you need to be in class in Milton? Yes. So there is the route that leaves Acton, heads to Georgetown, and then we'll drop at CK. Can the job extend beyond the co-op period? No, it cannot. And again, it's just like, can you extend your math class beyond, the end of a semester? No, right? So we're stuck with the start and stop dates, July the 2nd to August the 2nd. In-class dates, July the 2nd is the only one that we know for sure right now. I will post when we get the others. Usually next year starts first week of September. Why is this programming ended in August 2nd? It is a summer program. So the program starts from July 2nd to August 2nd. You keep mentioning workshops. I could not attend the ones during March break. Are there any future ones? Yes, any of the ones I put on, I do record, and I post the recording, at least of my portion. So I make a recording of my presentation, and I put it up onto our Google Classroom. Last year's presentations are still up, just to help you if you're anxious and want to get kick-started on your search or your progress. I am part of the healthcare SHSM, and there are still some missing skills in my blueprint. Would that be earned from a co-op? No, I think some of those, if you're looking for your your workshops that you've done through your SHSM at school, that you're going to have to take care of in your grade 12 year. So you'll be heading out to your reach ahead opportunities at that point. What are registering for my blueprint April 17th? Is it just to register and then partake in a co-op, or is it registering for a co-op if you have security? Oh, that's a great question. So the question is, should I be registering in my blueprint if I have yet to have a co-op secured? Absolutely. You register in my blueprint, even though you don't have a co-op secured yet. Then we keep looking, we keep applying. Once you do secure a co-op, then I move you into fully accepted into the program. Okay. Would I be allowed to work on my co-op during weekends? Yes, you can. We just have to make sure that the WEA, the Workplace Education Agreement, reflects the times you're at work, because I have to make sure that your WSIB has coverage. Would I be allowed to work another job? I really don't think you're going to have time for another job. You're going to be working like 8 hours a day. It is a full-time gig. But you're free to do as you wish, as long as you can get your hours in. I would say though that's really pushing limits. Would any of the class days be during the week? As I would be expected to be present at my job. I hope to get you those dates sooner than later so that you can work with your boss to tell them your schedule and book that time off. Okay, for a student success co-op, can the internship be with any type of organization? So our typical student success candidate will have a job already. And student success candidates as well, it does not need to be a 2 credit. So if your job was a part-time job and during the 5 weeks you'll be working approximately 110 hours, we can put you in for a 1 credit co-op, right? We do have to register that first though. And there's no ability to go for 2 credits and then decide, no, I only have enough hours for 1. So you've got to line that up sooner than later, okay? But certainly student success, yeah, you can do it virtually, just about any placement, so long as we can kind of register a tieback code, and that's usually not that difficult. I mean, I think officially, I believe students can have up to 16 co-op credits on their high school diploma. So we got lots of room. Will students who are usually provided a bus pass from school get one during the co-op period? Not to my knowledge. We have yet to have any transportation, to my knowledge, during the summer co-op. My daughter's in the SHSM social justice. What are the best options? Can she do a co-op for social justice? So certainly, I mean, we've had a lot of students as well with law firms, paralegals, right? So again, the Google Classroom is going to be the best place where I start to filter that information out. How does my daughter join the Google Classroom? The best way, you fill out that survey. From that survey, I add automatically anybody with a Halton District School Board email address to the classroom. When do we know the in-class dates? As soon as I know, you'll be the very next to know. I promise you that. How do we join the Google Classroom? Yes, so fill out that survey. I'll add you right away. When are the workshops going to happen? I typically have those mid-April to end of April, or end of April into May, sorry. So mid-April, end of April, beginning of May. I schedule a few just because students move through this process at different times, okay? Last year's recordings are up on the site right now, up on our Google Classroom, so you can kind of get a sneak peek. They're going to be more similar than they are different, but certainly I have no problem hosting a number of workshops for you. If you have less than 220 hours, are you doing part-time or are there any consequences? The idea is when we're looking for these co-op placements, we need to be looking for a full-time experience. It's supposed to be a 2 credit co-op, so we need to be very close to that 220 hours. And quite often when we incorporate the homework and the in-class days, you'll find that you're pretty much smack on to the 220. Does something in fashion align with the arts and culture? Yeah, I would believe so. Again, I'd like to know who the co-op placement would be with. And, I'm constantly looking at your job description, your major credits, establishing the tieback codes. So once we get into the details of it, I'll be better able to assess that. Can my daughter take multiple music camps to work? I think if we're looking there, yes. So if you're at the same camp, right, and week to week, it's different students, you're kind of got the same employer, right? So that's fine. If you're looking to hop between different employers, you're again trying to jump between different employers, you're going to get a very different experience. And that's, again, can be problematic with such a tight time frame here. Are the 3 in-class days going to be consecutive? No, they are spaced out throughout the calendar. The one being July the 2nd, right at the very start. Then we have one like almost 2 weeks in, week and a half, 2 weeks in. And that's mainly to make sure that the assignments are coming along. There's, questions can be answered, that the students are being fully supported by the co-op teacher. And then closer to the end, that's where we're really wrapping everything up, making sure that again, for success, that we've kept up with our work and that there aren't going to be any delays with submitting any of our material. I asked how long because I sent my application like March 27th and haven't heard back. This is a specific application that you may have had. If it was one that was posted, some of them, if you read, like even the current McMaster one, I don't think they make their decisions until mid-May. So it depends. If you have sent in an application, read all the documentation in there. Sometimes there's some delay in with them making their decision. What's the culture part in the arts and culture? Well, arts and culture, it can be anything from theater to museum. I don't know if I can even encapsulate that in one answer, right? Culture could be so many different things, right? I'm even thinking like, if you went to like a sportsman type of environment, fishing, for example, that's a culture, right? But we could look at some of the typical placements, I guess, on a one-to-one basis. I'm working full-time during the summer. When will I have time for the in-class part of the co-op? You'll have to arrange those dates with the employer. Can you get rejected from a co-op like a job? Absolutely. Absolutely. You need to present yourself as a professional. And again, this is what I mentioned earlier. This is an opportunity for you to gain some hands-on experience in an employment sector or an area that you're looking to have a future career in. So you should be motivated, you should be engaged, and it should be a place that you want to gain and grow from. If we can't find a sector-related co-op, but found something that isn't closely related, could we still do it? I think that's a pretty loaded question there. I think that really depends on what we're talking about. But I wouldn't set yourself up with a mindset like that, right? I think it's very possible, and certainly last year we had full success of students finding co-op placements related to their sectors. So I don't see why we couldn't do it this year as well. Where can I search for social justice? I would say law firms are the popular ones, but we can look at some of the nonprofits that we've had as well. There's a good number of partners that we've had in the past. Can a student begin working in a business before the co-op begins? Not if it's like an unpaid, right? You don't have your WSIB coverage from us. I suppose if it was an employer that you're working with, I mean, it's a job that you're working at, just as a regular non-co-op related job until the co-op starts. So yeah, if you have a job with the employer, you could certainly do that until the co-op starts. But you couldn't do that as an unpaid co-op student, right? Our program is very specific. Our program runs from July the 2nd until August the 2nd. And we must make sure that all of our paperwork is in order. Okay, folks, I have reached the end of the questions at this point. So I appreciate that. If you do have any additional questions, by all means, you have my email. I'll look through the rest of these as they come about. It does timestamp and have your email address as well, so I can respond to any specific questions as they come through. But I appreciate your time. I hope that it answered a lot of your questions, and I do look forward to working with you throughout this process. Have a great night.